Welcome back, friends, to Course 20 of the Massive Open Online course for Mission Transition. Course 20 is focused on using and contributing to online resources. Our objectives are to understand that contributing to the community is the apex of the transition behavioral hierarchy, and to use and contribute to resources that benefit the community of transitioning veterans. And through this course, we'll develop skills that will help you do exactly the same. Required materials for the course include Chapter 11, the last chapter in Mission Transition, being able to take notes on the course, and having access to the voluminous resources under the Resources tab on my website. You'll find me on various social media platforms, and as always, please take this, if you can, with a veteran that has successfully gone through this process in the past. We're right at the tail end of the MOOC, friends. We're approaching the end to acclimate, assimilate, and to pay it forward. This course focusing on paying it forward. We revisit again our transition behavioral hierarchy, the 4 C's, if you will, and I'll reference the description below and the hierarchy to the right. Note that in this course, we're focusing on contribution to the community is the apex of the transition behavioral hierarchy. And once we approach this point, we'll effectively determine our success, or the degree of success we'll have in our transition. So, contributing your lessons learned. In doing so, and why it's so important, it's for a couple of reasons. One is that truly, if you've gotten to this point in your transition, you will have experienced any number of lessons learned. And to the extent that you're willing to contribute those that are going through the process, it will demonstrate that you've dealt with these issues and for the most part are on your way to, or if not, have already successfully transitioned. So congratulations on making it this far and being in a position to share those lessons learned with others. The other importance in sharing those lessons learned are that others can benefit from it so that they don't need to repeat the same issues that you may have run into in the course of your transition. And so it should be our collective goal, it's my belief, to eliminate false starts and failed transition for veterans that are following in our footsteps coming out of the service. And in doing so, you can help all of you, friends. You've undoubtedly learned some lessons learned throughout this process. And so let's make those available for everyone to digest. And just as it helped you, chances are it could help someone else. And frankly, just as in the military, lives are at stake. And your contribution and reflection on those lessons learned may well save a life. Friends, the rate of suicide has more than doubled over the past decade in the post 9/11 veteran cohort in this generation. We need to do all we can to try to offset that. And that suicidality is directly linked to, as I've proven in a white paper you find on my webpage, the incomplete or unsatisfactory transition that they've experienced from the military. So please contribute your lessons learned and help save a life. And also, please note Gandhi's quote at the bottom there: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It's all part of selfless service, friends. Let's help our peers. And so please do 2 things. Share your additional thoughts along with this course and this book with your veteran support groups, and post those additional lessons learned to my website. Some sample lessons learned, just to give you some additional thoughts around the kinds of things you might share. And these are additional thoughts that are above and beyond the troops in the trenches call outs in the book. So just some sample thoughts here. From Dave Uslan, a former Air Force Senior Master Sergeant: everyone will offer their opinion on its content and the resume, that is, and some of that will be conflicting. And the key is to just get comfortable with what you have. This goes back to what we talked about in the course about others offering a point of view. You ultimately have to be the one to decide what's going to apply in your particular situation. From Dominic Lancelotta: be relentless, be persistent, send follow-up emails. Hiring managers understand your situation, so don't be afraid. Take your personal pride out of the equation. Be humble, be willing to accept help, personal connections, and useful resources. Again, the value of networking. From Melissa Galini: take your time with your resume and find a number of experienced professionals that can review and provide feedback from their perspective. taking your time because we first need to understand who we are and who we want to be, where we want to go until we start putting pen to paper on that resume. Under the topic of networking, again, from Dave Uslan, begin networking early. Use LinkedIn, use Hire Heroes, Hire Purpose, Veterati, research industries, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Also, don't be afraid to cold call companies. Tell them you're interested in their company and that you're just doing some research and whether there's anyone with whom they could connect you. Great point there. Again, from Dominic Lancellotta. When you're asking for help, it doesn't feel like networking. It feels like you're being a pain in the ass, but you're still building relationships, whether you realize it or not. Again, the value of building mutually beneficial relationships and how networking and the value you bring to those relationships will evolve over time. It's kind of tough at first. From a former Army captain, the best part of my transition was meeting fellow veterans who helped me make the transition. One of the concerns I had was thinking there was a lack of camaraderie in the civilian sector. However, my experience was just the opposite. I developed strong professional personal relationships with fellow vets that continue today. I think that having a strong network is key to a successful transition. And I would argue that what that former captain's referring to is the value of your tribe when you come out and being connected to a business resource group, an affinity group, that initial network of peers that helps you network and transition successfully into the civilian members of the organization to which you're matriculating. Some thoughts on rejection, because you're certainly going to experience it, folks, if you haven't already. From Travis Long, a former Navy petty officer. I initially shotgunned my resume everywhere, sent it to 50 or 60 companies, and that was a mistake, as this approach resulted in a lot of rejections. I got to the point where I started thinking that I needed a job, not the job. So I saw the job I eventually landed as temporary. I figured I'd spend 6 to 8 months there and then move on to something that was more aligned with my interest. I finally got a mentor to walk me through career planning and eventually found my dream job. Again, friends, the importance of tailoring your approach, the importance of working with others to help provide perspective on your approach. And then from Grant Heslin, I was surprised at how disinterested many of the organizations I interviewed with were in my military education and career, in spite of it representing almost the entirety of my professional experience. I found it disheartening that this tremendous responsibility I held in the Army seemingly carried little weight or importance. This was a low point in my search. I aspired to use my engineering education, but it was evident that the organizations and positions I was interviewing for placed a higher value on technical engineering skills and experience than leadership and less tangible skills I learned in my military career. And so I changed my search vector towards positions and opportunities that played more to my strengths and was rewarded with greater interest and, in most cases, overall better compensation. Again, friends, targeting your approach and working with mentors along the way to help see you through. Finally, some thoughts on retirement. We haven't touched directly on this, but here are some good thoughts to consider. Again, from Dave Uslan. Take a good amount of permissive leave and terminal leave. You're going to need to relax, network, and transition, but you also need time to decompress psychologically. Again, I refer to my own experience in decompressing or deprogramming, if you will, through my graduate school experience. You all want to take some time to do that through whatever the means. To the extent that you have additional leave saved up, please take it and pay it forward to yourself, if you will. Some additional quotes here from Dan Hodney. You've got to trust the military system of leadership development. Your organization won't falter when you retire. Its remaining leaders and your replacement will ensure that it doesn't. You only have one approach to retirement. Use the time wisely and do it correctly. No one else will do it for you. So, friends, in that last role, recognize you're going to get a mid-block eval, whether you try to hit it out of the park or center mass it. It's all going to be the same because people are going to backfill you and do the job. So it's the one time in your career you've got to take care of yourself. More thoughts. I've told other service members to take TAP seriously and take notes. There's no excuse for failing to follow the steps of the process. There's too much at stake, particularly when it entails ensuring that you and your family have covered all of the administrative bases before you're no longer on active duty. Absolutely right. And I would urge you to take TAP multiple times and up to 18, if not 24 months prior to the end of your time in service. A few other thoughts here. Make a transition calendar and stick to it. From the notes taken in TAP, mark all of the key actions and milestones that require action and backwards plan to hit them. Permissive TDY and transition leave will arrive before you know it, and if you're not paying attention, you could find yourself scrambling. The retirement date won't change. Finally, plan a spectacular, special, and meaningful retirement ceremony. You owe it to your family. Your success in your military career also came as a result of their sacrifices, support, and accomplishments. It was a true team effort. So go out on a high note as a team, celebrating and reflecting upon your military story together. It's a big day, and you all deserve to bask in it. You only retire from the military once. Great thoughts, great encouragement from Dan Hodney. And so, friends, your homework. Please, having gone through this course, ponder it, ponder your lessons learned, what you've learned along the way, and contribute those things on my website. You'll see at the bottom of the page that's noted way and means for you to do so. Again, consider that doing so could not only help another person be more effective and efficient with their transition, it may literally save a life. And then also contribute to the broader veteran network any way you can. As you get positioned in your new organization, become a member of that business resource group, that veteran resource group, call it what you will, affinity group, and contribute not only to your new tribe, but to those civilians in the organization as well. Help them understand who veterans are and how they can best interface with those veterans. Check out the book for a veterans benefits timetable. Some things you're going to want to consider and follow as you're heading out the door. Also, a veteran transition action checklist. I'll call it a success checklist in one of the appendices of the book. Sample resumes, letters, notes, you'll find those on my website as well. Perspective from veterans like you that have already transitioned. Advice for professionals. We've got our final course speaks directly to this. Federal and state veteran employment protections. You'll find that on my website as well. Additional guidance for those among us with greater tenure and additional support for your transition from a number of resources you'll see here momentarily. So words to the wise, share your lessons learned with the broader network. Again, could save a life, and pay it forward. Once you complete this course, you're really going to be trained in this career change process. So share this with your peers that are going through it. This is not about furthering the book, friends. This is about helping those among us that are most deserving to be successful. And as a result, at scale, is to help our nation be successful as a result. In short, good goes around. So please share it. Here are some additional resources. And again, those among us with greater tenure, you see the asterisk there, all worthwhile, all worth your time. Please take advantage. Once again, here's how to contact me, where to contact me if you have questions. And then lastly, let's end with a video here, just a little bit on my personal background to bring it home that I am one of you.
I'm from right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised, very blue-collar, middle-class background. My father was a firefighter. My mother was a housekeeper, ruler of the roost, if you will. Dad worked several different jobs to keep food on the table. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Played a lot of sports during my years in school up through high school. You know, got good grades, and it was sufficiently good enough that I kind of had the perfect West Point background, if you will. And being the oldest of 6 kids, knowing that the family didn't have a ton of resources to provide for a collegiate education, I began looking into service academies as an alternative. And so that's what led me to West Point and obviously into service in the Army. Post-Army, I spent 5 years active duty, another 16 in the reserves. I used graduate school as my transition vehicle, got my MBA from Indiana, and then went on to subsequent stints in the corporate world, places like Procter & Gamble, General Electric, and for the last 15 years, Deloitte. Deloitte happens to be the largest professional services firm in the world, and it's during this time I've initiated my side hustle, as I call it, a legal entity under which I facilitate all of my publication and book writing efforts. So that's the short story for you.
All right, friends, come on back. One more course to go, where we'll talk about the potential of joining the reserve component. Take care.